take each day to invest in yourself and take each day to invest in different aspects of your life, whether it's, social life, wellness, personal, professional life. I think there's a lot more fulfillment when you are really living life in a more joyful way. And even before realizing it, you're probably living your purpose in life.
Hey there, and welcome to Work is Third. I'm your host, Dawn Hunter, and I'm so glad you're here. Urmi Hossain didn't wait for a formal mentorship program to change her life. Her friends did that for her. A self-published author, speaker, female mentor, and women's advocate, today Urmi's here to talk about how who we surround ourselves with is one of the best ways to invest in ourselves. We recorded this around International Women's Day, and this episode is a good reminder of what strong female leadership looks like. Let's listen in. Hello, Urmi. Welcome to Work is Third.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to talk to you today because we connected over email at first, but you are a corporate finance professional, but also a creative spirit who specializes in women's empowerment and identity and in personal growth. So I'm excited to see where the conversation goes today. But before we get into it, can you share a word to describe how you're doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. We finally have some warm days. It's +3 and the snow is melting. So I'm very much looking forward to the spring season.
Yeah, this is about that time of year, right? Where we start to shift seasons again. And daylight savings time is this coming weekend, isn't it?
I know, right?
Yeah.
So exciting.
Yeah. And so for listeners, you are in Montreal, right?
That's right.
Yes. And
Yes.
how long have you been there?
It's been quite a while. It's been 15 years. So I do have my Canadian citizenship now.
Oh, that's wonderful. And so I'm curious because I have actually never visited there. What is something that drew you there and that keeps you living there?
So if you have never been in Montreal, you definitely have to come, because I feel like Montreal has a special European touch that other Canadian cities do not have. So Montreal, it's in Quebec, in the province of Quebec, which is a bilingual province. So it means that we speak both English and French. And what's nice about Montreal is that you have that French vibe when you walk around the street. So you can, have the croissant, pain au chocolat, all these things. Like you actually find those things in Montreal, and if you go and look for a baguette and things like that. So it has a very nice French vibe, and that's what I really, really like about it. And I do think that Montreal in the summer is such a beautiful city. Like the winters are tough and long, but somehow in the summer it just transforms itself. And there's so much culture and there's so much celebration of cultures. Like in the summer, we have like a week, which is the Italian week. Then we have the Asian week. Like each week we're celebrating a different culture, and that's what's nice about Montreal.
I am sold. Actually, travel comes up quite a bit on this podcast as a thing that we prioritize over work or even as part of work. I know for me, it's important to me to be able to travel in the work that I do. And when I do travel for work, I always try to add on an adventure to what I do. So I definitely want to add this into my travel plans in the future.
You should.
Do you get to travel much yourself?
I do. I love traveling. Every year I'm always trying to do at least one or two travels and one or two trips. And last year my two favorite trips were in Asia. So I did go to Malaysia and Singapore, which I felt they were beautiful, like very, very nice. And I loved the vibe in Malaysia. People are so kind. Like I don't know how to explain, but they're so genuinely kind, and they really care for the people. And I love the food. It's so diverse and rich and colorful and tasty at the same time. And what I very much appreciated about Malaysia was the harmony among, the different cultures, different religions. And I also very much appreciated Los Angeles, that there is, it's a very laid back culture. And they have really good coffee, which is what which is what I like when I'm traveling. And I really like the beaches. And LA has a special place in my heart because a lot of the TV shows I used to watch when I was a kid, the OC or the Laguna Beach, were actually shot there. So I went to those places to see where this was done. So I was like, oh my gosh.
That's really fun that you got to do that. I also like to I've tried to do that with a show. I watched the show Breaking Bad, which is one of my
Oh,
favorite TV shows of all time, and it was filmed in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm from New Mexico, so it was really fun to go explore where they actually filmed parts of the series at, and it's so fun when you get to do that.
yes.
So,
Yeah.
let's go back to how we connected because I think you had found out about Work is Third, you reached out, and I was really interested in your background, and I'm curious about what it was about the idea of Work is Third that you made you wanna reach out.
So, one thing that I felt like was relatable to what you do is the work that I do outside of my 9 to 5. I do like to believe, there is work, but work is not everything, and work should not be everything. Like, I think that us as individuals, like we can give a lot more and we should not have our identities tied to our work. I think it's important to pursue outside of work passions to live a more fulfilled life and to give back and to make your life much more joyful and enjoyable. And so one of the things that I do outside of my 9 to 5 is to give back through community involvement, mentorship, women's empowerment, leadership, and so forth. And so that's why I reached out because I was like, I think I might have a good story to share.
You do, because that is exactly what this podcast is about, is this idea that work is not our whole identity and that it's important to nurture other aspects of who we are to feel fulfilled and to feel joyful. And so let's talk about the work you do to give back to your community. I know you're involved in Women in Leadership Montreal. Tell me more about that.
Yes, so I joined the Women in Leadership organization, like the actual organization, back in 2023 or 2022. And just to give you a brief introduction of what the organization is, it's based in Canada and it's a nonprofit organization that it's whose mission is really to empower the women in the whole country. And each city of Canada has its chapter. So I used to be part of the Victoria chapter, and then I joined the Montreal chapter, I would say like 6 months ago. And our chapter has been dormant. So now what we're trying to do is to relaunch it, and we're actually having an event on Sunday for International Women's Day, where we're bringing speakers, panelists, women who will be sharing about their career. And what's nice about this organization is that it has been there for 25 years, and honestly, they do amazing things when it comes to like giving back to women and building community of women because there is a mentorship program, there is a leadership development program, we have an emerging leaders program. We also do like webinars, workshop, and each chapter does its own thing, of course, right? Some of them they do like they have a wellness program where women get together and go for walks, go for hikes. We also have a chapter where basically people do happy hours, they get together and do networking events. But basically, we all work for the same purpose, for the same mission, which is really to build communities of women where they want to feel heard, seen, and address their concerns, of course, but also to connect each other and feel empowered. So I very much enjoy these things, and I do a lot of things which are also not related to women in leadership, just the fact of like connecting with other women and exchanging ideas and seeing how our powers are aligned. Like it's just, I feel like there's something magical about it.
I feel like there's something magical too when you are in a community of people who you feel that connection with and who you share interests and values with. What are some of the specific things that you have been involved in your chapter?
Specific things I would say is that now we're really trying to bring it back alive, the chapter, because it was dormant for a while. And honestly, like I'm very excited for the event that we're launching on Sunday. There's a lot of work to tell the truth. Like I didn't expect that there was so much work, so much planning, so much organization, little details and so forth. But it's also excited at the same time because us we're four amazing women running the chapter, and I can see the drive that we have. And I can also see the interest from other women. Like when I talk about women in leadership, I can see that people are so interested in it. And I think a lot of women can relate to this whole theme or concept like women in leadership. Like I think that the goal is really to have more women who are feeling empowered to take more leadership skills, to take initiatives where sometimes maybe we're not given that chance, maybe we're not given that opportunity, or maybe an opportunity doesn't come. But hopefully, through our involvement, through giving the resources and the tools to them, we can really, really help them to feel empowered. Yeah.
I'm glad to bring attention to International Women's Day and Women's History Month. And I'm curious if you had experience with a woman leader of your in your own life or something else that really compelled you to go give back in this way to your community.
So I get inspired by a lot of women, if I have to be honest. Like I think that I always take something from each of the women that I connect with. And I do think that each person has something to offer. So myself working in finance, I am surrounded by a lot of women who are in finance, and I always try to get inspiration from them. And there was this one particular manager who basically she was my manager for a while, and she wasn't my mentor, but I always saw her as my mentor. Like I felt like every time I was talking to her, looking at her, I was like, this is how I want to be. Because she's very charismatic and she's very like outspoken and eloquent at the same time. And I was like, this is exactly how I want to be. So there was her who, gave me a little bit of an idea of what kind of person I wanted to be. And because I felt that she was so inspirational in the way she was acting. Because I feel like, sometimes when I think about managers, you always feel like, they're micromanaging you, or maybe they're giving you orders. She was not like that. It was more like an equal kind of relationship where we were both at the same level. And that's what I admired about her work. So there was her who was quite important. And then of course other women that I interact maybe from in one-to-one type of relationship. And also my mentees. Like I do a lot of mentoring, and I am a mentor to so many young girls, but my mentees are so full of life. That's another beautiful thing that I have noticed, is that they're so driven, they're so motivated, they're so determined. And I'm like, I wish I was like that when I was their age, but I feel like I can still have that, room to grow and to be like them. So I also get inspiration by a lot of them. So there isn't one specific person. I feel like I get something from each of the women that I connect with.
That's really beautiful to think about, both learning from the younger generation and people you're mentoring, but also people who have mentored you. And another important thing that you said, I think, is that you had somebody who was a mentor to you, even though it wasn't a formal relationship like that. And that's really valuable because I think often it's great to have formal mentoring programs, but it's also great to have people who just kind of naturally fall into that role for us, who model what it is that we want to do in our own lives. And we don't always have those people in our lives. So it's great that you had that. But also, I think it helps people open their mind to think about you can have a mentor without going through a mentor program. It's like, is there somebody in your life you admire and how can you spend more time with them and learn from them?
Yeah, that's it. And if I could add further to that, there is this term that I came across when I was reading articles, and it says Friendtor, which is a combination of friend and mentor. And sometimes we don't realize it, but our own friends are also our mentors. Like when we are confiding ourselves to someone, it's someone that we really trust, and these are our friends. And friends can be great mentors as well. So you don't necessarily have to go through a mentorship program. You don't have to like find an organization that have mentors. Like sometimes the people who are like closest to you can be great mentors. And I always say, this is why it's so important that you surround yourself with people that are uplifting you, that are willing to invest in you, they want to see you like grow. And I feel like I became a lot more careful right now on who I want to have around me, because that's so important for my own personal growth.
That's really a great addition because I would say when I was younger, I don't think I was that intentional. I am much more intentional now as I'm older in thinking about who I want to spend my time with and being around people who am invested in, but who are also invested in me and that we grow together. And I love the Friendtor idea because I learn from all the women I'm friends with. I mean, they're so incredible. Every one of them has something unique to learn from, right? And it's being in community. It's not just one person, like you said. It's I get something from every interaction I have, and I love the idea of that.
Yes. When you talk about mentors and friend tours, of course, you have those long-term relationship, like your friendtors or your friends are typically, some people that you have known for so long. And then when it comes to actual mentorship program, these are like usually 6 months, 4 months. It really depends on the program, so they're quite short. But then you also have those that I call speed mentoring, where basically you get to, meet people maybe at the social events, maybe at the networking events. You interact one time, and you also get a lot of wisdom and information and guidance from them. So that those two are quite effective when it comes to speed mentoring, because I do a lot of them, especially when it comes to going to like events organized by universities where they need, let's say, female leaders to act as a mentor for speed mentoring, where you are put in a room with a group of young women who are basically asking you questions for 40 minutes. And those are quite effective because they get to get a lot of information in one sitting. So even speed mentoring is quite effective.
I don't think I ever connected the dots on speed mentoring in that way. It makes sense, and I think it's a low lift because I have been asked to be a mentor, and I think it's an involvement that I just honestly feel like I don't always have time for, to do a long-term commitment. But I could go to a speed mentoring event and share advice with people, and it's a one-time commitment, and maybe I do it multiple times, but yeah, I don't think I thought of it that way before.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe you can suggest it to the organizations who do those kind of events. And maybe you want to do a speed mentoring type of event. They're so much fun. They're so much fun.
Oh, that sounds fun. That sounds fun. So, it sounds like women in leadership keeps you pretty busy, but I also know that you are an author, a blogger, um, and otherwise a creator, and you have a YouTube channel as well. So, I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about your other creative pursuits and things that are important to you.
So my other creative pursuits are related to what you have just mentioned. Of course, women in leadership is a big part of my life, and also mentoring is a big part of my life, which I do outside of my women in leadership work. And then, of course, there is blogging. So I used to have a blog many years ago, and I used to basically like talk about things that people could find useful. But then now I actually write for organizations where maybe, there is a team, a recurring team, or there is a team that they want to talk about. And I just like to write for them. And I feel like that really helps with my writing skills. I'm still writing without having a blog, where sometimes, it's a lot of commitment to have a blog. And I feel like with writing for other organization, it really helped me to build my portfolio, the things that I can show to people as a showcase of my work. And I also have a podcast, which is something that I have started in August. And that too, like I was quite hesitant at the beginning because I was like, I'm not good at editing. But you know what? I really enjoy talking to people, and I enjoy holding a microphone. So I was like, you know what? Let me just do it, especially because I felt like I kept being or appearing in a lot of podcasts as a guest. But then I was like, I want to give a chance to other people to share their stories. And that's where I created my podcast called Stories Beyond Borders, which is a podcast about migration stories, which is quite, I would say, quite current when it comes to the team. Like it's something that, everyone talks about. People move for different reasons. And unfortunately, people have to move for certain reasons that we don't want to. But I feel like it's always worth giving the chance to people to share their stories. And even though I wasn't quite good with editing, I feel like I owe it to myself that now I finally learned it, and I should like, celebrate myself for learning it, because it's something that I was quite hesitant about, especially when it comes to editing. But there's always a learning process. Like I feel like when you are pursuing these outside interests, work, like things that are outside of your work, there's always a learning process, and you have to try different things to figure out what's good. And I feel like I like it better. Like I know that I have to separate my life when it comes to my professional life and also my personal life. And the two things are quite separate, because I am always in the office. So that takes, I would say 50% of my time. But these things that I do outside of my work, they're so important for me, because I feel like I'm able to learn all these other things that allow me to be expressive and allow me to be more human and connect with other people, which are equally important as my day-to-day job. And I don't want to be just known for someone who works at a corporate job, which is something that I'm quite proud of, but I think I want to be known for more. And then this is where the other interests come from.
So I'd love to explore how you protect that time, like real practical things that you do. And the reason I ask is I completely relate to everything that you're saying. I have a blog as well. It takes a lot of time and effort. And one of my friends recently said to me, there's only one of you, Dawn. So how are you going to spend your time? Because you cannot do all the things you want to do at the frequency with which you want to do them. And it really has helped me to readjust and think about, okay, if I really want to write a blog, do I have to write it every week or every other week? What if it's just once a month? And the same thing with the podcast as well. And thinking about the frequency of episodes, how much time I invest in editing, and also just being happy with it being imperfect. So I completely relate. And I'm curious of what you do to protect your time for those creative pursuits.
So I would say I put what I call the time boundaries. So basically I do have to block the time. Like time blocking, it's something that has really worked, and I have to make sure that my calendars have those hours booked, because if I don't, then one, I forget, and two, I will not do it. And I feel like I am quite accountable to myself when it comes to like blocking the time. Like if I see that it's on my calendar, I'm really gonna sit down and do that. And I'm quite disciplined when it comes to that. And I also have a lot of to-do list where basically my work is spread out for the whole months, I would say, probably a quarter. Like I go quite far with my calendar, and I typically stick to it. But a little bit like you, I learned to be imperfect, meaning that I'm aware of what I know, I'm aware of what I do not know, and rather than having a bunch of things done all together, I prefer that it's like spread out based on how much I can do. So for my podcast, for instance, like I don't record an episode every week. I don't release an episode every week. That would be impossible for me. I release it once every 3 weeks, but it's manageable for me. Like editing, it takes so much time. Doing an interview takes so much time. Finding guests, it takes so much time. So I make sure that it's like, it's based on how I prefer to do it, rather than, having external people controlling what I'm doing. So I went to this workshop where they were telling me about podcasts. Like if you feel like you don't have time to do it, or you feel like once a week is too much, or twice a week is too much, you have the control on it. You have the control on your time. So you decide what's best for you. And that's what they make me think, okay, this is what entrepreneurs do, and I have to think like one. And so I really control my time when it comes to, doing my creative side, creative things, by really putting like blocking the time. I really have to block the time, and I have to have things spread out rather than doing like 5 things in one afternoon. I spread it out throughout the whole week. So I know that I'm not overdoing. I know that I'm doing a little bit. I'm doing maybe an hour, and then I have the rest of the afternoon to do other things, for instance.
Time blocking is probably one of the most important tools. I do that as well. But one of my struggles is that I will block the time, but then I will feel like doing something else. Maybe I'm very much like to follow my intuition. Like, I just feel like I should work on this today instead of this. Do you struggle with that at all? Or do you really follow, if you say I'm going to work on X, that you actually work on X?
So typically I do, but I also give myself room to be flexible. Like let's say today's plan was to write an article that it's due, let's say next week. If I don't have time today, I will do it tomorrow, but I make sure that I do it tomorrow. So I give myself like room to like be flexible and manage my time. Uh, Typically, I'm quite accountable when it comes to that. Like I do have to have a deadline to make sure that I'm working on it. And I go by what's important and what's the priority. Because I read a book, I forgot now the name of it. It was one of those like books where they talk about all the skills that you should have in order to be successful, and they were saying how to manage your time, and they were saying like you should always do like what's the priority first. So I always like keep that in mind. Like I look at the deadline, I see what's due soon, then I work on it. So if something is due, let's say in a month, like I'm not gonna start working it right now.
Yeah, that's really important. I have had to force myself to get in the habit of doing that, where I am like, what is the actual priority? And everything else has to wait. It has to come later. And I find myself wanting to do things that I don't actually need to do. And it's hard for me to let them go, and so I would sometimes stay up late or work on the weekends, and then I've gotten to the point where I said, I don't need to do that. The things that are a priority have to get done. Everything else, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Like with my blog, if I don't publish an edition, it doesn't really matter, right? It gets out when it gets out, and I was stressing myself out to try to keep it on a certain schedule, and now I'm like, I don't need to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's so interesting? Like, I feel like people like me and you always are hoping we can get an extra hour during the day. Like, I feel like 24 hours sometimes are not enough. And like, I go to sleep and I'm like, oh, but I want to do more things. But then I'm like, no, but my sleep is important. I have to make sure that I'm going to sleep. So I just shut off. Like, I just go and sleep, for instance. Like, I make sure that even the other aspect of my life are also important, getting a good night's sleep, working out, eating well. Like I'm not depriving myself of anything, and I'm not, ruining other aspects of my life because you need the balance of everything.
You do need a balance of everything, and I definitely am much better about sleep, especially saying I know how much sleep I need to function well, and it's non-negotiable for me. No matter what, if
Same,
something is not done, it is just not done because I will not sacrifice sleep for anything. I don't do it
same,
anymore. I
same.
used to. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's not good, honestly. I think it's not good, like sacrificing your sleep for other things, because if you want to function well and if you want to do things well, you have to make sure that you're getting enough rest.
Right. And it's so funny. I don't know about you and what you rest was like for you growing up, but I struggled with rest and being still because I always felt like I had to be productive and I had to be doing something. And as an adult, it's been something I've had to learn to slow down, to take breaks, to not feel guilty about taking breaks, and importantly to make that connection that this actually helps me to be a better person, a better employee, a better friend, a better partner if I am rested and if I'm taking care of myself.
You know what? I had a similar experience when I was studying and working at the same time. So I pursued few designations in finance, and I completed some of them while I was studying full time. Sorry, when I was working full time. So you're working full time and studying for all these designations, and which take a lot of your hours. And remember a few times where, I would go to work, come back home, and I would sit down and study, and I would just constantly study. But some days I was like falling asleep. And I used to tell myself, no, I have to like go through this. I have to make sure that I study for this and I finish the chapter. But then I learned to listen to my body. Like if I'm feeling sleepy and I'm trying to study, it's not gonna go anywhere. It's wasted time. I'm not getting quality work done. And that's when I started to realize that, it's important that I also like take a break. It's important that I go for a walk, maybe eat, maybe go to sleep, and then I can go back at it. So one of the things I would do, for instance, is that as soon as I was like falling asleep or my body was tired, I would just close everything, go to sleep, and I would wake up early, well rested to start back again. So I learned to listen to my body.
Learning to listen to your body is something I was just talking to someone else earlier today about that and the signs that our body gives us when it needs something that we're not giving it, whether that's sleep or food or water or whatever it might be. But it is important. And I was very similar. I worked when I was in school, and often I would push myself and I would study tired. But then I also learned that if I studied and then I actually took a break and took a nap and then went back to studying, I retained information much better than if I had just stayed up and studied. So I
Yeah.
actually started just incorporating that intentionally, like study, rest. And it was much more effective. And I feel like I retained information better doing that. It took me time to learn that though. Outside of your experience, like with school, are there other things, experiences you've had that have helped to teach you to listen to your body better?
I mean, definitely when I get tired, that's one thing that I always listen to. Even now that I'm not studying, like as soon as I'm tired and I'm, let's say, working on something, I just go back to I just take a rest or, take a nap and tell myself I can do this another time. Listening to your body when you are, let's say, not feeling well, that's another thing that I'm trying to really work hard on it because I feel like sometimes your body is sending you signals, but you're not listening to them. And that was like something that was so bad. Like I would just let it go. But now I'm like, no, I really have to pay attention if I'm having a pain somewhere. And I try to really like understand where the pain is coming from and things like that. So that's one thing that I'm really working on right now. Like really to pay attention to those things. Like if you feel like, your stomach is hurting, your legs are hurting, why is it hurting? Like I'm like trying not to overdo in that sense. And especially like let's say when you go for a workout at the gym, sometimes you're doing so much and then the next day maybe you're in pain, but you still go to the gym. No, that's a sign that if you're sore, very sore, you want to take a break. Like I know we live in a society that they tell you have to do more and more and more in order to be successful. And we never celebrate taking rest. But I really learned that it's okay to take a break from a workout because I need that to, restore my muscle, my energy, and so forth. And I try not to feel bad, and I try to have also like a lot of self-compassion for myself. Because sometimes I'm just like, oh my gosh, I did not go to the gym today. Like, oh my gosh, I feel awful. But I really learned to be imperfect. Like, I think that's how I see it. Like, it's better to be imperfect and feel good than being perfect and doing everything but with bad results, bad outcome. So that's one thing that I feel like I'm really focusing on right now. It's not about perfection. It's all about progress. Yeah.
I'm doing the same thing, especially with the gym. I did find myself so in the habit and in the routine of working out, and I will go even if I'm tired. And then sometimes that makes it worse because then I'm even more sore and my body's trying to recover from that. And then maybe also I'm exposed to somebody at the gym that might have a cold or something. And then when your body isn't rested, you're more immunocompromised. And so then I'm getting sick. And
Yeah.
I've really had to learn to say it's like you said, being imperfect, being active is a good thing, even if it's 3 days a week or 1 day a week, just being less judgmental about how I spend my time. And then honestly, I look at some of my friends sometimes and I work out way more than like I'm always doing something yoga, Pilates, Zumba, lifting weights. I do all these things, but I have friends who never step foot in a gym and they are
Mm-hmm.
just fine.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think like in those cases, it's also good to come up with alternatives. Like let's say, you have worked out so much, you're sore, you want to go back again because, you feel like, oh, I'm not going to the gym for one day. I'm not feeling good. But you can find alternatives such as going for a walk. Gentle walk is equally good. So finding an alternative, maybe, you're sore, you can do some stretching, you can do something that is like of mild intensity. So being able to be flexible, to adjust yourself, to adjust your schedule, to do what's best for your body in that specific moment. So I think that's also very important.
That is so important. Yeah, I agree. And I love the reminder that it doesn't have to be complicated. Simple things to move our bodies is just as good for us and that we can do those on days
Yeah,
when we need more rest. Yeah.
that's right.
So let's get into, I would love to, as we're kind of getting a little bit further into the conversation, there are 4 questions that I ask every guest, which are related to what we've been talking about, which is how we set boundaries and take care of ourselves. And the first question for you is, what is something that it is easy for you to say yes to?
Probably, especially based on what we were talking about, say yes to anything that is like body movement related, especially when it's related to boxing or Muay Thai. So if there are like events happening in Montreal where, there is a session where people can join and do like boxing for free or by paying, I'm typically there.
Are you also a boxer and do you do kickboxing?
I do boxing, not kickboxing.
Okay. Muay Thai, is it fighting? Like, how do you describe it? Muay Thai fighting? Muay Thai?
Yeah, Muay Thai. So Muay Thai and boxing are quite similar, but with Muay Thai, you also use your legs and you are also barefoot. And Muay Thai, it's a full body workout, but typically it's not aerobic that you're doing. You're learning how to jab, how to cross, you're learning how to kick and stuff like that. And you're not punching a bag with Muay Thai. You're with someone, you are paired up with someone to learn how to do all these techniques. And with the boxing, you're typically either punching a bag or you're doing, things with someone, but it's mainly your upper body that you're working. And again, it's not aerobic. You're really working how to punch someone, how to do some self-defense. You learn the technique. So I feel like people sometimes like mistake it as like you're just doing aerobic, but it's not that. And I do find that for those who do boxing, okay, first of all, you sweat like there is no tomorrow. It's like you're just sweating, and it's quite tough. I feel like boxing is quite tough, and the people training you are quite disciplined, and that's what they're trying to like spread or give as a message. You building discipline and strength, mental and physical strength by doing boxing. Like that's why you always see the coaches like yelling, like crazy yelling, because that's what they're trying to do. Like they want to build that kind of like character on the people they're training. And it's a very structured workout. Like they teach you how to, do the jumping rope. They teach you all these techniques, how to punch, how to, attack, how to, defend yourself. So it's pretty much about that. But I feel like a lot of the things that you learn in boxing, you can apply it in your day-to-day like life.
A lot of people don't know this about me, or people I've met more
Mm.
recently in my life, but I used to box as well. And it was one of my favorite things to do. And I
It's so
agree.
much
I mean,
fun.
you learn so much about your how to pay attention to your body, how to be intentional with your movement, how to read a scenario, how to read the environment and the body language of the person that you're in the ring with. I loved it. And so I love that that's something that you're into, and you make me think I should pick it back up again, or at least go try it out again. It's been a long time.
It's it's so much fun. I love it. I love boxing.
So the second question then is, what is something that it is hard for you to say no to?
Oh man. Something hard to say no to. Okay, I would say probably reading. I think I picked a habit where I'm always reading, pretty much all the time. And I'm not reading for hours. I'm reading maybe for 15 minutes, and that's more than enough for me to like get through 12 to 15 books per year. And I set this goal where every month I'm gonna try to finish a book. So I set the goal to read one book per month. So that's 12 books. But typically I go over that. Like I'm reading like 15 books, 16 books, depending on the length of the books. But I'm typically making time for it. Like when I'm taking the bus or in the metro, instead of like being on my phone, I'm reading a book. And I feel like that way I'm progressing. So that's something that I find really hard to say no. Like when I'm on the bus or in the metro, like if I don't have a book in my bag, I know something is missing.
Well, I'm a reader as well, so I definitely appreciate that that's something that's important to you. I also set a reading goal every year. So yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that. So the last two questions are really related to how you take care of yourself. So when it comes to joy and rest and self-care, we've learned a lot about what it is that you do for yourself. Is there anything you think that is your superpower that you do really well?
I do think my superpower is my ability to manage my time effectively and being able to incorporate so many different things in my routine. Because there is my day-to-day job, which of course takes half of my time. There is my creative stuff that I do, but then I also take time to work out. I take time to do my 10,000 steps. I take time to cook. Like I actually really take time to do everything and incorporate every single thing that makes my life. There is professional life, personal life, wellness, social life. Even my social life, it's quite active because I do participate to a lot of social events, whether it is organized by university where they need someone to, be a speaker, whether it is to deliver a workshop in a nonprofit organization, whether it is to go to a public speaking club to, practice my public speaking skills. Like that is my superpower. Like I'm able to do everything without overdoing, without being burnout, So that's how I'm able to like keep everything balanced. And I have friends tell me, you do so many things. Do you ever stop? Do you ever take a break? But for me, doing these things is also part of my break. Like I cannot sit down and not do anything. That's unproductive.
People say the same thing to me, but I actually have been trying to do less because I just find myself sometimes committing to do things. I'm like, I don't know that I actually needed to spend my time on this. And so I'm actually always working at doing less.
I don't want to do less. I think people want me to do less because they think I'm doing too much. But you know what? I manage it, so I think the more the better for me.
Okay. Well, then the flip side of that question is there anything that you still struggle with when it comes to setting boundaries or taking care of yourself?
I think I have learned to put boundaries through time. I think I really struggle with putting boundaries in general, where I would just say yes to everything, even when something was not aligned with what I wanted to do. But now I'm very selective to when I say yes, I'm very selective when it comes to, seeing what's important for me, what's aligned with me. And I try also to like not feel bad about it. Like sometimes, I would tend to say yes because I just wanted to make the other person happy, pleasing the other person. But then I'm like, am I making myself happy? And so I learned through time that it's okay to put boundaries. And that's how I got back some of my time so that I can do the things that I do right now.
One of the things I've shared on this show in the past is that I used to, for a while, a couple of years, I had a Post-it note on the wall next to my desk, and it had 2 questions on it. Will this make me happy? Does it benefit my future self? And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, that's how I'm making decisions because I was making decisions that I think made other people happy and not me. And so I wanted to shift
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Good.
So, as we come towards the end of our conversation, we didn't talk about identity, but I know that's an important part of your experience, part of also why you started your podcast. You also have a book that you've written. Is there something about your identity that shapes your experience with how you care for yourself and how you set these boundaries?
So my identity is very important because it's me. It's who I am. It's myself, my most authentic self, and this is how I want people to know me for, Italian Bengali rather than just Italian or rather than just Bengali. And I think that as soon as I was able to find that answer for myself, I feel like it just created a new Urmi who became much more confident about who she is and what she stands for. And so for me, I feel like it was at that moment when I finally learned about my cultural identity that I was able to shift and finally go after the things I wanted to do. But I think I really had to take time to learn myself first. And I was really struggling for many years in finding that answer in who am I really and which culture do I belong to? And I feel like sometimes people put you in a box, they label you, you have to be what we tell you to be, but it's not up to people to tell me who I am. It's up to me to choose it. And I really did that work where I finally found that answer. But my answer was always around me. I just never paid attention to it because, like, I speak both Italian and Bengali. I speak it on a regular basis. I have friends, Italian friends with who I speak, but I also have, Bengali people around me. I eat, Bengali food and Italian food, but sometimes, they're so part of your day to day that you don't realize it, but the answers are there. And it was when I started to think about how much time I give to each of the culture, the conclusion was I give 50 and 50. So why do I have to choose? I can be both. And so I feel at the moment I embraced my identity, there was a newer version of myself, which was, much more confident. And I feel like I had a lot more power to do the things that I do.
I think that's a story that so many of us can relate to. I myself is a mixed race, and I think that for like many mixed race people grew up kind of saying like, where do I belong? And that was a lot of my life is spent figuring
Yeah.
out that sense of belonging and who do I belong with. But the most important relationship you can have is the one with yourself. And so when you figure that out, everything else flows so smoothly.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And everything makes sense. And yeah, yeah, I agree.
So, is there anything that you would like to share with listeners before we wrap up today?
I think something that I would like to tell the audience today or the listeners is take each day to invest in yourself and take each day to invest in different aspect of your life, whether it's, social life, wellness, personal, professional life. I think there's a lot more fulfillment when you are really living life in a more joyful way. And even before realizing it, you're probably living your purpose in life.
This is great advice, and really, I appreciate it so much because that really is why I created this space to have these conversations, to remind people to do exactly what you're saying, and to share examples of how people are doing it, so somebody hears that you're doing might click with them, and they say, "I can do that too." And especially love
Yes.
the community part. We didn't dive into community, but I love that one of the ways that you feel fulfilled is by giving back to your community. Is there anything you would add about that for folks who are also community minded?
I think when it comes to community, you have to find your calling and you have to find what's right for you. And for that, you have to a little bit understand your values and also what you're good at. Like, how can you give back? What your strengths are, but also do a work where you understand what is it that I stand for. So for me, for instance, it was all about women's empowerment. And I felt like I was good at like giving advice. That's how I felt like, I'm just gonna work on female mentorship. So that's what's my way of giving back. But I must say that it does not work for everyone. So it's up to everyone to do a sort of like trial and error to find out what's right for them. So you have to find what's right for you. And I always say the more you do, the more you figure out what's best for you, and you will get a lot more clarity.
Great advice to end on. Urmi, thank you so much for being a guest and having this delightful conversation. I'm glad that you are here as a part of Work is Third.
Thank you.
A huge thanks to Urmi for this conversation and for the reminder that investing in yourself daily, even in small ways, is what lets you show up fully in every part of your life. If this hit home, send it to someone who needs permission to protect their time. New episodes drop every other week. Remember, work is third, put yourself first.